You know what's strange? We have more ways to meet people than ever. Apps, DMs, dating sites. But somehow, dating feels harder, more exhausting, and way more confusing. But there's this entire generation, people who dated in the 1970s, who experienced romance in a way that's almost unrecognizable to us now. What if modern dating feels broken, not because you're doing it wrong, but because the entire psychology of how we connect has fundamentally changed? See, the 1970s was a strange time for dating. The sexual revolution had just happened, people had more freedom than their parents, but they were also watching those same parents get divorced at record rates. So you had this generation caught between liberation and caution, experimenting with new rules while living under old constraints. That tension created something psychologists call constrained intimacy, when you have just enough freedom to choose, but not enough privacy to hide. Your dating pool was your school, your neighborhood, your church. You could date more casually than the 1950s, but everyone still knew. Here's the thing. You couldn't text someone. You had to call their house. Their mom or dad picked up. You said your name, asked for them, waited while they yelled upstairs. That's not just inconvenient. That's psychologically exposing. And that visibility shaped everything. How attraction formed, how trust built, how relationships lasted. Picture this. It's 1975. You're 19 years old. There's a guy in your biology class you've been noticing for weeks. He sits 2 rows ahead, always asks good questions, has that easy smile. One day after class, he stops you in the hallway. He asks if you'd want to go see Jaws this Friday. You say yes. But here's the thing. You can't just text him later. You can't check his Instagram. You go home, you wait, and 3 days later the phone rings. Mrs. Thompson answers. Hello? She hands you the phone with a knowing look. It's him. He confirms Friday at 7. That's it. 30 seconds. And now you wait again. This is what psychologists call high-stakes courtship. Every interaction mattered because interactions were rare. You couldn't send a casual, hey, at 2 a.m. You had to plan. You had to commit. And because of that, your brain treated every moment with more weight. When scarcity is high, value perception increases. You weren't evaluating him against 47 other guys in your DMs. You were evaluating him against the silence, against the possibility that no one else might ask. That fundamentally changed how attraction formed. It wasn't about finding the perfect person. It was about investing in what you had instead of fantasizing about what you didn't. Now let's flip the script. It's Friday night. He pulls up to your house. But here's what's critical. He doesn't honk. He doesn't text here. He gets out, walks to your front door, and knocks. Mr. Thompson answers. They shake hands. Your dad asks where you're going, what time you'll be back. You can see him sweating through his shirt, but he answers respectfully. The movie theater, sir. We'll be back by 11. Mr. Thompson nods. You leave together. And you both know you have to be back by 11. This is community-enforced accountability. Your date wasn't just between you and him. It involved your parents, his parents, your neighbors, your friends. Everyone knew. And that social visibility created a psychological safety net, especially for women. If he mistreated you, it wasn't private. There were consequences, social, reputational. Research shows that community oversight reduces predatory behavior and increases pro-social conduct. It wasn't romantic in the modern sense, but it was protective. And it meant that guys who showed up had to show up with intention. Or maybe, for you, it's something else entirely. You've been dating someone for 3 months now. It's Saturday night, and you're at the roller rink with your friends, Lisa, Karen, his friends Mike and Steve. The music's loud, the lights are flashing, and you're holding hands as you skate in circles. It's not private, it's not Instagram-worthy, but it's real. You're building a relationship in public, in shared spaces, with witnesses. This is what psychologists call socially embedded romance. Your relationship wasn't just about the two of you. It was woven into your community, your routines, your social world. And that embeddedness created stability. You couldn't just disappear when things got hard. You had to face conflict, negotiate differences, show up even when it was uncomfortable. Studies show that relationships with higher social integration have lower dissolution rates. It's not that people stayed together because leaving required dismantling an entire social structure. And in that friction, many people learned how to work through problems instead of just moving on. But here's what this really means. 1970s daters weren't just building relationships differently. They were operating in an entirely different psychological environment. Today, we face what researchers call hyperstimulation and comparison overload. The average person on dating apps sees hundreds of potential partners in a single session. Your brain wasn't designed for that. Evolutionary psychologists note that humans evolved in small tribes of 50 to 150 people. That was your entire dating pool for millennia. Now, you're processing thousands of faces, and your brain is making mate selection decisions with data it was never built to handle. And it's not just volume, it's speed. In the 1970s, relationships moved slowly, by necessity. You went on a date, you waited. You went on another, you waited. That waiting allowed your nervous system to regulate, to process, to actually feel without pressure of immediate response. Modern dating compresses that timeline. You match, message, meet, and if there's not instant chemistry, you move on. But attachment doesn't work that way. Research from the University of Texas shows emotional bonding requires time and repeated exposure. The mere exposure effect demonstrates that familiarity breeds affection. When you optimize for novelty instead of familiarity, you work against your own biology. There's also accountability. In the 1970s, bad behavior had social costs. Today, you can ghost someone and never see them again. You can lie and face no consequences. That anonymity removes the evolutionary pressure to be trustworthy, to show up with integrity. And when trust is optional, intimacy becomes nearly impossible. So maybe people who dated in the 1970s weren't luckier. Maybe they just had constraints that forced them to build differently. They couldn't swipe away discomfort. They couldn't ghost when things got complicated. They had to sit in the tension, work through the awkwardness, and build intimacy in the friction. And maybe that's not romantic in the way we think about romance today. The instant spark, the perfect match, the soulmate who requires no effort. But it was real, in a way that modern dating often isn't. The truth is, we've gained a lot. We have more freedom, more choice, more ability to leave situations that don't serve us. But we've also lost something. The psychological architecture that made depth possible. The scarcity that made us value what we had. The slowness that let intimacy grow. The accountability that made us show up with intention. So which generation had it harder? That's not really the question. The question is, what can we learn from how they built connection in a world that forced them to be intentional? Because maybe the answer to why modern dating feels so broken isn't more options. Maybe it's more constraint, more patience, more presence. If this resonated with you, I'm curious. Do you think dating was psychologically healthier in the 1970s? Or are we better off with the freedom we have today? Drop a comment and let me know. And if you want to go deeper into the psychology of relationships, connection, and why we feel the way we feel, hit subscribe. We explore this stuff every week. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.